call this the this is June 3rd meeting of the Urban Renewal and Planning Commission meeting to order. I ask that you join me in standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Summers, would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Benberry, Commissioner Carmen.
Here.
Commissioner Griffin.
Here.
Commissioner Kaler, Commissioner Morrison,
Here.
Commissioner Rhodes.
Here.
Chairman Wade.
Here. Our first action is to approve and review the minutes of the May 6th meeting. And I believe that Commissioner Morrison, you have that motion?
Yes, sir. I move that the reading of the minutes for May 6, 2024 be waived and that the minutes of said meeting be prepared by staff be approved as written.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Are there any additions, deletions, or corrections to the minutes as written? Hearing none, Mr. Summers, would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Morrison,
Aye.
Commissioner Rhodes,
Aye.
Commissioner Carmen,
Aye.
Commissioner Griffin,
Aye.
Chairman Wade.
Aye. According to our agenda, we have no new urban renewal petitions. We have no continuing planning commission petitions. We do have a petition that we need to finish up on at the May 6th meeting, as noted in the minutes, 200 Fountain Avenue. There was a presentation that was followed up by a vote for the recommendation to the Paducah City Commission for a possible zoning change. While we did vote on that, we did not complete our findings of fact, which is required by KRS 100 to accompany our recommendation. Therefore, I would like to entertain a motion, and I have within your packet there is a draft motion, or I have one here. If someone feels moved to give us some guidance on completing that task and create the findings of fact for the support of the recommendation that we have presented.
Let me provide a little more explanation to this.
Please do.
The motion that was made at the last meeting by Vice Chair Morrison was to adopt a resolution approving the zone change request.
Yes.
That motion failed by a vote of 4-2, meaning that this commission has not taken any action on that petition because the statute and our ordinances require us to make a recommendation and approval, which means that an affirmative vote has to be made either for recommending approval or for recommending denial. So we needed to come back here and have another motion either to approve or to deny. And our statute and the ordinances also say that whichever way we decide to recommend, it needs to be accompanied by findings of fact that support that decision. So that's why we're here tonight. The staff report that you previously had and that was part of the record in the last meeting has not changed. And the record from the Planning Commission, or from the public hearing last time, and then also the written objection that we received in advance of last night's meeting, is the evidence from which we have to draw to base that decision. Because Kentucky law says that whatever our findings are, they have to be based on substantial evidence in the record. So that is what our record consists of. And so based on that, we need to come up with, somebody needs to make a motion one way or the other, and that motion needs to be accompanied by findings of fact that we have made to support that decision.
Thank you. You said that much more eloquently than I.
Yeah. And before the meeting, I handed out an ordinance. I did that so that you could see that's what I handed out is Paducah Code of Ordinances, section 126-176, which is the regulation that is pertinent to a zone change procedure Paragraph E is what we are, the regulations for rezoning. The one I wanted to point out to you is on the opposite page. On the back side of that page, it is subsection F, and that says, this mirrors the Kentucky statute on this, and it states what findings are necessary in order to grant a zone change. So just for everybody's benefit and to read it into the record, the findings that would be necessary to approve this zone change request would be that this body agrees that the comprehensive plan, so the Planning Commission must find that the map amendment agrees with the comprehensive plan. In other words, what we've been asked to do now is change an R1 zone to a neighborhood services zone. So in order to grant that zone change request, you all would have to find that that amendment, the new NSC zone, is in agreement with the comprehensive plan. If you don't find that, then you have to make two other findings. That the original zone classification, in this case R1, given to the property was inappropriate or improper. So you would have to find that it's inappropriate in order to change it to NSC. And in addition to that, you would have to find that there have been major changes of an economic, physical, or social nature within the area involved, which were not anticipated in the comprehensive plan and which have substantially altered the basic character of the area. So I can go back and go over that in a different way if you want me to, but those are the statutorily required findings in order to grant a zone change request. We don't have any written statutory findings necessary to deny a zone change request. Those don't exist. The statutes have not provided that, and neither have our zoning ordinances. But we can infer from what it says is necessary to grant it, what would be necessary to deny it. And basically, if this body finds that the zone change is not in agreement with the comprehensive plan, then that would be a finding that would support denial. If you find that the zoning classification that it currently has is appropriate, that R1 is appropriate, that would be a finding that would be sufficient to support a denial, as would a finding that there have not been major changes of an economic, physical, social nature that were not anticipated in the comprehensive plan, or that don't substantially alter the basic character of the area. So that's kind of your guideposts there. Whatever your finding is has to be supported by what we learned in the public hearing, the staff report, or the objection that we received from Mr. Coscarelli.
Does anyone have any questions of Mr. Bradford?
Just so I'm clear, the only thing I heard from Mr. Coscarelli was in the first paragraph of our notes that began when we opened the public hearing. I'm looking at page 6 of the minutes of May 6th. He stated that different zoning can change the character of the neighborhood. He further stated that this would take a house off the market for a single-family home. And I guess this would be directed to Mr. Summer. Is that considered sufficient?
I will have to let Paul tackle that one.
To deny?
Using the minutes as written here,
Yes.
I think I would probably defer you to, since we got a written objection from Mr. Coscarelli, whatever his comments were would be in addition to the written, since we received this in advance of the public meeting and all planning commissioners received a copy of this in advance so that was taken into account.
That was evidence.
When voting last time, that this would provide additional context for his comments.
Sure.
So if there's anything that's contained in this objection that the commissioners find supports one of those findings I just went over, then that would be sufficient.
Can I? Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
So at this point, we voted 4-2 to not make a change, right? In other words, we're not going to make 205 Avenue that zone thing.
Well, the wording of the motion that was made is significant on that. The motion that was made was by Mr. Morrison was that we adopt a resolution approving the zone change. That,
Vote it down.
yeah, that was voted no. So in essence, we said, no, we don't want to adopt a resolution
Right.
approving the zone change. But the statute requires us to make a recommendation.
Okay, so where I'm headed is just so we don't, so I don't get confused. So what we're talking about tonight, or at least right now, is what pieces of evidence do we have, what arguments we have that says, here's why we decided not to change the zone.
That's accurate, yeah.
So,
That would be based on the evidence that was taken
Yeah.
in May.
Yeah, if you want to make that motion, because from a parliamentary procedure standpoint, we don't have a motion under consideration right now. An
Right.
affirmative vote has to be made.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, so the,
I mean, you can
a
probably
suggested wording for that motion was in the staff report, if you want to make that and make it.
I get to read it.
You get to read that, and then,
But you're also able to make whatever motion you want. I mean,
Yes,
you're a
you can
planning
make one.
commissioner, you can come up with your own motion, but this is a suggestion that is in accordance with
and
our ordinances.
whatever motion you make, those findings of fact need to be,
Okay, so in my
provided.
case, since we voted 4-2 to deny a zoning change, then my motion would be to deny, right? Make sure I'm not an
I'm
attorney.
hesitant to
Right.
provide you any guidance on what you want to say.
If you're asking that, what's an appropriate motion, if what you want to do is to recommend we deny the zone change, then what's written here and fill in the word denied would be
Versus,
the way to make that motion.
well, I'm just, I'm neither an attorney or a long-serving member on this outfit. I guess I can, I guess I need to read it. I move this commission make a recommendation to the Board of Commissioners that the requested zoning change to neighborhood service zone classification for property located at 200 Fountain Avenue be denied. I further move that this commission adopt the following findings of fact supporting the recommendation, the recommendation of denial. I think if I read that correct, did I say that correctly,
Yes.
Yeah.
Mr. Summers, or? Okay. All right, so I read it.
Well, the only thing that's missing then is
Is the finding of fact.
findings of facts.
So do we now fill that in, or do we?
You can announce it and it will be.
You can suggest any findings of fact that you think are appropriate for that motion or for that recommendation to the Board of Commissioners.
And I probably won't say this in the right legalese, but I was thinking about, I think about all these comprehensive plan meetings I have attended. I think that's an even-handed way to say it. You were there. And, they keep talking about affordable housing for, they primarily say young people, but I guess it could be either, we'll just say affordable housing, the right size housing. I mean, that's a big issue.
That's getting a bit
Now, is that?
outside,
Well,
these
so
things
what I
right
was-
here
so what I was
are
thinking
really
is
what
that-
we should limit ourselves to, I would think.
Well, I guess I was thinking with what Mr. Costello said about it would remove a affordable house from stock. And it sort of goes along with what I said in in Lower Town, we have probably 12 or 15 of these bed and breakfasts. And these are houses that primarily would be great starter houses for people.
All right, if I'm hearing you correctly,
So
are you
I'm saying,
saying that?
I'm trying to say, and I guess what I'm saying is, instead of me just saying, well, Allen Road says we ought to have more affordable housing, I'm saying that the comprehensive plan that I've been to a bunch of meetings, that is a very common theme expressed by citizens of Paducah and the comprehensive plan leaders, the guys that put this thing.
Well, if you permit me to
Please.
say that in a more succinct way, it sounds like you're saying that you don't think that this zoning change is in agreement with the comprehensive plan.
Okay, yeah.
Because a comprehensive plan, as you're saying, has priority on affordable housing, and this would take away from affordable housing. So it's not in agreement with the comprehensive.
See, that's why you're an attorney and I'm not.
All right, so I would suggest that you amend the motion you just made.
Well, no, he hasn't completed it.
Yeah, you haven't completed, we've been
Right.
having discussion in the midst of it. So we have on the record the motion that you made, and I think you should add to the end of your motion, what you just,
Would that be the 1, 2, and 3? Those reasons here?
well, it doesn't have to, you don't have a set number of facts that you have
Could
to
you write down
find.
and just tell me what to say? Would that be all right? You said just that.
I
okay,
heard you say that the
that
comprehensive plan
plan
as it is correct.
is correct, and it encourages,
Oh.
it demands.
Here's what I would suggest, and you can say whether you agree to adding that to your motion or not, and I'm just translating what I heard from you, that, as the findings of fact to support your recommendation of denial, you found that the proposed map amendment does not agree with the comprehensive plan because it would lessen affordable housing in the city.
That's perfect.
Is that according to what,
I think you did a great
your beliefs?
job.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, are there any other findings that any other commissioner would suggest, or you're still making the motion? So if you're going to make findings of fact, you can suggest any others you want, or you can stop it there.
Well, I'm sure that I have many others who would love to speak.
Yeah. Well, now that you've made the motion, if that's where you want to end it, then any other commissioner can, if they think there are other facts supporting that recommendation, they can suggest an amendment to that motion and add that finding of fact.
The only thing, and this may not be something that you want to put in this thing, but I was fascinated by the comment or the position of the city where about non-conforming property, because there's 8,000 square feet, not 12,000 square feet, and yet, I know in Fountain Avenue, over there by the Rotary Health Park, the last 3 or 4 houses are on very small lots, they're very small houses, so obviously, you could say those are non-conforming houses and lots because they're way under 12, I mean, they're very small, they face the backside of the Rotary Health Park. So, I don't know if I can challenge this non-conforming property. I mean, like the property that et cetera sits on. You know, it's 8,000 square feet, it's 8,000 square feet. So I don't see that is a very viable argument. But that may not be something that we can put in here. I don't know, because.
Do you find that the current zoning classification is correct?
I'm sorry, I don't know how to answer the question.
The current zoning, they're asking for us to change the zoning. Are you saying you find that the current zoning is correct and should not be changed?
I guess what I say is I don't understand why planning would say that an 8,000 square foot lot, you have to have, if you don't have a 12,000 square foot lot, you're non-conforming, and yet we have small lots in Fountain Avenue and in Lower Town that obviously have houses being built on them right now. So how can we say that it's how can we use that as an excuse to change this Fountain Avenue when we have plenty of lots that are being built on in Lower Town and Fountain Avenue?
Thank
It just seems awkward.
Sure, if I can clear that up a little bit, Commissioner Rhodes. So that subdivision you're talking about is on the opposite side of Harahan as well. And Harahan was established in 1905 with 40-foot lots. In the KRS, the Planning Commission, as well as any other body encompassed within the umbrella of the City of Paducah, is able to operate outside of planning and zoning. And that's any city, county, fire department, whatever it is across the state. Whenever the director at the time wanted to mimic the pattern of lots and return it like it was on 14th Street. So that's why that subdivision was established like it was with the 40-foot lots, was to return the historic pattern to that block.
So that was an exception to current standards, therefore it's probably not appropriate
Right,
to
so-
compare this
And so what about all the
to
lots?
this.
What about when the city said, look, Alan, you got a 57 by 165-foot lot to build, et cetera. And I gave him $1 for it, and you build, et cetera. That would have been a non-conforming lot in 2005, I guess. And maybe that's not even germane to this whole argument, I don't know, but it just seems, on the one hand, to be saying, you can't have these kind of, or we don't want these kind of lots, and yet you're approving those lots for building in various places in the city. It just seems nonsensical to me. It doesn't seem, it would seem to me there'd be a way we could further say that this doesn't make sense. But Mickey, here, jump in, help me.
Well, if,
David.
Hal?
well, you're kind of in the middle of your motion. If you're completing your motion,
What does any, I mean, does that strengthen the motion?
right, well, I mean, if you want to put that in there as a finding of fact, the area of the staff report you're talking about is where that was one factor that the staff pointed to
Right.
in making its recommendation to change the zone because there is a nonconformity. And they put in there, the facts of why it is nonconforming, so.
Because it's 8,000 or 12,000 square feet.
Right, so it does vary from what the R1 zone says is required for a lot now. Because it's a non-conforming use, doesn't require it to be, the zone to be changed, but that, in staff's opinion, was one factor that weighed in favor of changing the zone to get rid of the non-conformity, because the comprehensive plan states that non-conformities are undesirable. So you've got two parts of the comprehensive plan that, from your perspective, are in competition here. In one area, the comprehensive plan says that we need to encourage affordable housing. In another area, it says that non-conformities are undesirable and we should get rid of them when we can. So
Which I
that's
disagree with.
the function of this planning commission, to decide which is the more important
And I
cause,
just
which
think
is the more important interest.
It's a nonsensical position for us to take where we don't want to have because then what you're saying is, yeah, we want affordable housing, but we want them 12,000 square foot lots, which is incompatible with one another.
Well, I mean, if you wanted to add something to your findings of fact that had to do with that, I mean, I guess you could have something saying that
If it
you
was strengthened,
you
I'd
found
like
that the interest of getting rid of a nonconformity is not outweighed by the interest of having affordable housing, something to that effect.
I guess I would say if it strengthens the argument, it'll stand up. I'd say put it in there. If you don't think it would,
Well, I mean, if
It's
that's,
your motion, so.
yeah, I was gonna say, if that's a
It's not up to
factor that
him.
you and the other commissioners relied on to come to your conclusion to make a recommendation to denial, then it would be appropriate to put in there. If it's not a factor that everybody else thinks is part of that reason for recommendation.
I tell, well, let's go ahead and we may approve what we've got, and we can come back to that if we.
Okay.
Okay,
Change
there's a
your mind.
motion on the table. Is there a second?
I think Josh has written down the motion as you've made it, since we've kind of had discussion in the midst of it. Maybe he can recap the motion as you stated it.
Okay, so the very first thing I got is it relates to affordable housing, and I'll have to go back and rewatch to get the exact verbiage on that, but the first one was affordable housing, and number two, basically not being congruent with the nonconformities on North 14th Street.
Are you wanting to, I thought from what I heard a
I
second
think,
ago,
I think you
didn't want to
can,
include that second one.
we can, at this point, cleave off the second part about the non-conforming and just go with the planning, where the comprehensive plan is encouraging affordable housing, and this removes affordable housing stock.
The motion on the floor, as I heard it, with the findings of fact, was that you made a motion and stated, I move that this commission make a recommendation to the Board of Commissioners that the requested change to neighborhood services zone classification for the property located at 200 Fountain Avenue be denied. I further move that this commission adopt the following findings of fact supporting the recommendation of denial. And your findings of fact that you suggested were that the zone change does not agree with the comprehensive plan because it does not support affordable housing in the city.
That'll work.
Okay, so if that's the motion you want to make, then it is moved, and now it needs a second, or
I'll do that. Is there a second to this motion?
Yes.
Moved and seconded. Any other discussion of the item in front of us? Since it would,
Is it appropriate for me to remind folks of the reasons why we didn't deny this the first time?
this is a time for discussion. It's
Well,
whatever
that's
you- whatever
right.
you
It is
feel
the
is-
time for discussion.
Yeah, whatever you
And I'd
feel is
like to have
appropriate to
that
add to the
discussion
conversation.
again. The staff did a great job in giving these findings of fact. My vote was based upon these findings of fact the first time through. And so the rezoning complies with the City of Paducah comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan speaks at length about the abolishment of nonconforming uses. Those are two facts. Specifically, that nonconformity should be viewed as undesirable. 3, the rezoning of this lot would remove the nonconforming status of the lot in the R1 zone to a conforming status in the neighborhood services zone. Look at this, folks. The 4th fact is the site is in the Jefferson Street, Fountain Avenue Historic District. The site is on a prominent corner leading into the greater Fountain Avenue neighborhood. Additional protections, I think we're overlooking this. Additional protections would be placed on the home and the neighborhood at large by way of exterior approvals being reviewed by the Historic Architecture Review Commission. That brings great benefit to the neighborhood and to this property in particular. Now, that relates, I understand, to the neighborhood services zone classification, the first part of this. It goes on, number 6. An apartment building and commercial building are located to the south of the site, which minimizes an entirely residential character, as the R1 zone would suggest. Number 7, the neighborhood services zone is located adjacent to this site, therefore spot zoning would be negated. And that was sufficient for my vote last time as being for and not against.
I don't see how Hark applies anyway. I don't see how that Hark is, and to be perfectly candid, Hark works for people who want it to work. If somebody doesn't really want Hark to work, they'll just do it anyway, and Hark has little teeth.
I have no knowledge of what you're speaking of, so therefore I would take that as being an opinion since you do live in it.
It's just, I
But-
mean, I think of,
I don't know how that's
I can,
germane at this point.
it, but I'm just saying, but I
don't
thought
believe Hark
Hark,
applies to it currently, since it's R1 zone. Is that
Right.
correct?
That's correct.
I don't see the Hark, I don't think because we make it a service zone makes it Hark any more powerful.
Well, because then the regulations that apply to the NSC zone, which specifically say that changes to the building of a certain nature have to
But
go
Hark
before
covers
Hark
that anyway.
for approval. Sorry, what?
Hark covers that anyway.
Not if it's in an
Not if
R1
it's
zone.
R1.
Currently changes to this house are not subject to Hark approval.
In Fountain Avenue.
Is that
Right.
accurate?
This is an R1 zone.
I thought Fountain Avenue was covered by Hark.
It's by
No.
zone.
Yeah, not entirely. The two homes on the south end of Fountain Avenue and Broadway are both R1, where the houses north of those two start the NSC zone. So that's where Hark takes over as far as exterior changes. But for these two, and
Good to know.
specifically the house in question, does not have any standards, performance standards to be met.
Huh, okay. I did not know there was a cut around there. Good to know.
Any other discussions or questions about the motion that's in front of us? Are we ready to vote on this?
So let's clarify what we're voting on. We're not voting on this motion.
We're
In our packet.
providing the findings of fact that are in support of a parallel motion to what was done in May.
The motion on the floor is what I read off as a kind of a recap of what Mr. Rhodes stated and the findings of fact that he wanted to adopt. And then part of the discussion was when Mr. Morrison read off the findings of fact that were recommended in the staff report. So that's not part of the motion. That was just part of discussion. So the actual motion that has been made and seconded is what Mr. Rhodes made.
I move that this commission make a recommendation to the Board of Commissioners that the requested change to the neighborhood service zone classification for property located at 200 Fountain Avenue be denied. I further move that this commission adopt the following findings of fact supporting the recommendation of denial. And my notes are probably not as good as Mr. Summers' notes on the finding of fact, which had to do with comprehensive plan and affordable housing.
Yes, that the comprehensive plan, that the zone change would not be in compliance with the comprehensive plan because the comprehensive plan supports affordable housing and,
That was it.
okay,
That's what we're voting on. All right.
yeah, that's,
Any other? Last chance.
So a yes vote, it's, the zone stays R1.
Correct.
Correct. Mr. Summers, would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Rhodes,
Yeah, aye.
Commissioner Carmen,
Aye.
Commissioner Griffin,
No.
Commissioner Morrison,
Nay.
Chairman Wade.
No. All right, that brings us back to, we still need to do some type of action since we have turned down the negative action on this. We would, I think, entertain a motion similar to what we had in the May meeting.
And may I suggest that if somebody is going to make that motion, that it be made as written in the staff report, which would include a recommendation for the conditional use request as well?
Yes.
Because those, if we are going to recommend a zone change, if somebody so desires to make that motion, then we would need to take up the matter of the conditional use at the same time of whether or not to approve a short-term rental as a conditional use.
Do you wish to?
Love to.
I kind of got that inference.
I move that this commission adopt a resolution approving the neighborhood services zone classification for property located at 200 Fountain Avenue, and recommendations be made with the findings of fact as follows. The rezoning complies with the City of Paducah Comprehensive Plan. The comprehensive plan speaks at length about the abolishment of nonconforming uses, stating specifically that nonconformity should be viewed as undesirable. The rezoning of this lot would remove the nonconforming status of the lot in the R1 zone to a conforming status in the neighborhood services zone. The site is in the Jefferson Street, Fountain Avenue Historic District. The site is on a prominent corner leading into the greater Fountain Avenue neighborhood. Additional protections would be placed on the home and the neighborhood at large by way of exterior approvals being reviewed by the Historic Architecture Review Commission. An apartment building and commercial building are located to the south of the site, which minimizes an entirely residential character of the R1 zone, would suggest. Number 7, the neighborhood services zone is located adjacent to this site, therefore spot zoning would be negated. I further move that this commission approve the conditional use request of Nathan Myers for a short-term rental to be located in the neighborhood services zone at 200 Fountain Avenue. I further move that the approval be based on the following findings of fact, and the positive recommendation be made with these findings of fact. The site has convenient ingress and egress to Broadway, which is a minor arterial. The site has convenient ingress and egress to Martin Luther King Jr. Drive, Park Avenue, both of which are major arterials. The site is not within a residential subdivision. The site is on the edge of the neighborhood services zone. An apartment building and commercial building are located to the south of the site, which minimizes an entirely residential character. The number of guests will be limited to no more than 4 at a time. The site is centrally located within the City of Paducah, giving guests easy access to shopping, dining, and entertainment in both the downtown area and the regional trade center. The site is within the Jefferson Street, Fountain Avenue Historic District. Other City of Paducah historic districts are nearby, affording guests a unique cultural experience. And number 10, the driveway contains sufficient parking for up to 3 vehicles, tandem style.
So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. This is exactly the same motion that we entertained at the May meeting, of which we had a public hearing. We are not noticed to take any additional evidence on this motion or this action now, but I would ask the staff, do you have any other commentary, or does your staff report from May stand?
Staff report from May stands, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Is there any other questions from the commission prior to us taking a vote? Questions of staff or of Mr. Bradford? Hearing none. Mr. Summers, would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Morrison,
Aye.
Commissioner Rhodes,
No.
Commissioner Carmen,
No.
Commissioner Griffin,
Aye.
Chairman Wade.
Aye. Motion is passed. I have no other business on the agenda, and unless there's anything else, our next meeting will be July the 1st, and we stand adjourned.
I'll not be here.